Okay, you can start anytime.
Okay, so I'm here with Art Souza, Complex Area Superintendent of
West Hawaii,
West
Big Island.
Hawaii, Big Island. Okay, great. And so Art, you've been involved in the community of practice since some of the very first meetings we ever had in
Right.
Hawaii. And maybe I could just ask you real briefly to do sort of a retrospective on that. From those first meetings to now, what would you say as sort of the way that this whole thing has developed?
Well, I think initially I had been involved with doing leadership practice communities, working just with my principals in my complex areas. And we had been engaged with working with the Change Leaders Project from the East Coast from Harvard University. And it just became a natural way of working. I saw the success that we were having with the principals as they learned how to lead schools differently, lead schools in a collaborative model. The idea that they started to lead schools by developing communities of voices within their school. And so it's expanded from there because now we see we can do this on a much larger level. We can do it across wide communities, across agencies. And so the work has become kind of the basis for how we do school in West Hawaii.
That's fantastic. So let me just talk a little bit about, even though this is a way that you have kind of, that you naturally work and that you've developed over your career and just your personal life, how has this wider work in community practice here in Hawaii, just talk a little bit about how it's changing you. So your reasons for participating, I think you kind of identified some of those, that it fits in with your personal values about what education should be. But how would you say that, that this participating in this community of practice is really changing you?
It changes the way I lead, and it changes the way I think about my work. My work is not just about academic achievement. That's certainly the large end goal, but it's also about social achievement. It's also about behavioral supports. It's also about creating networks and of human interaction. So the work has become much bigger than the normal work I think that a superintendent just do. So my work is not about painting buildings and about making sure the buses run on time. They're still a part of that, but the work is much bigger. It's about developing community.
So what about the ability to influence with and have others benefit from your knowledge and skills, sharing your knowledge and skills? So let's take a look at that side of it, sharing your knowledge and skills. How's the community of practice here in Hawaii allowed you to share what you know and what you do well?
Well, I think it gives you a much broader forum. Once you start opening yourself up to the many perspectives that are out there, and people come to that shared table with those perspectives, then you're invited into their table. And so you find yourself talking in different forms, in different settings, interacting with different communities. I think what happened yesterday was a good example of that. We were talking to folks in Kauai and folks from Maui, and having an understanding that there are perspectives that are different, that are same, but that melding these perspectives makes for a better whole.
Yeah, perfect. And you know, the other side of sharing your skills is learning from their skills, and that's one thing I see here in Hawaii, this idea of two-way learning. So I have to think that that idea of creating a two-way learning, a respect for what you can learn from others, how's that changing and bringing people to the table here?
I think we're starting. I don't think we're as far along certainly as we'd like to be, but you know, for too long we've thought of learning as an isolated activity. So what you end up with is episodic brilliance. So within one complex area of 6 schools, I might have one highly achieving school, but because conversation never got outside those walls, we don't see the other 5 schools making progress. By breaking down those barriers and creating that 2, that 3, that 4, that 6-way learning, and sharing practice, we're seeing dramatic changes and dramatic improvements.
Excellent. So what about the community of practice? One of the points that we like to make is that collectively the community of practice can have a bigger influence than being part of community of practice, can have a bigger influence than any one person's position.
Yeah.
Do you find out here that there's a collective influence? How is that changing? How is being a part of a community affecting the ability to influence the world that is important to people here?
Again, it's opening perspective. I've found that the one thing I've understood about perspective is that everyone's perspective is correct. No one is ever wrong. It's just a different way of merging those beliefs. I mean, the more voices, the better. The more welcoming, the better. The more open discussion, hard discussion, the better. We can't go around improving communities. We can't go around improving schools with blinders on. And the communities of practice allow us to take the blinders off.
Thank you, Art. I really appreciate it. This has been wonderful.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Good enough.
Great.
Thank you.
Oh, Art, thank you so much. It's